All right, welcome back to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio. This episode, we're going to be talking about some exciting things. We're going to talk about the importance of fitness and nutrition as a prepper. Why is it important to be in good physical condition as a prepper? Before we get into that, we're going to just share with you really quickly that we have some great links in the description below. Make sure you click those links to get access to some of the products and services that we're promoting, that we've vetted, that we've talked about. One of those is Jace Medical. Jace Medical has a fantastic program where they allow you to have a supply of antibiotics. And it's always better to have, knowledge that we've talked about on several podcasts. Always better to have knowledge about herbs and natural medicines and other things. But if you have, if you're in a pinch and you need to have a Z-Pack, or if you need to have some antibiotics, you want to have your emergency kit from Jase Medical. And if you click the link in the description below and use the code PrepperTalk, you'll get $10 off your order. So it's definitely worth jumping down there and doing that. We also have some great other links with some companies called Pyro Putty, which is a fire starter. And we have another one with Devos Outdoor. They have a fantastic light. If you want to know about lighting for your campsite or lighting the area in case of emergency, when lights go out, you're going to want to have one of these lights in your house and one of these lights at your location so that you can see and have hands-free. It's a fantastic light. I have one myself. I'll be doing a video and review on it myself here pretty soon. But I wanted to also just remind everybody to go to our website at preppertalkradio.com. There's a resource page for you to be able to download any free resources that we have available to you. We have an email list that you can join so that you can get updates to all of our, whenever we drop a video or we have any comments or any events that we're going to be doing and putting on or promoting. Also, join our Facebook group. We have a lot of great conversations going on in the Facebook group right now. A lot of good people with some excellent experience and expertise that you're going to want to know and ask questions to and about. In fact, one of those that has a fantastic expertise that we have today as a guest is a returning guest. Thank you again for coming back on with us, Eric. We appreciate you being here. And it's just me today. Scott had a wedding to go to and wasn't able to attend. And Shane had a family situation come up where he wasn't able to be a part of it. So in order for it to work out with the scheduling, it's just me and Eric today. But Eric Moutsos, wanted to introduce him. We had him on the podcast talking last couple of days ago about liberty, about freedom, about the importance of leadership and standing up and stepping out and being a leader in your community and a leader to the principles of liberty. But this podcast, we're going to talk about fitness, and we're going to talk about the importance of being physically fit. Now, Eric, I've been on your website. At the bottom of your website, you have a picture there with a bunch of medals around your neck, and you look pretty yoked, dude. You're pretty dang ripped. Tell us a little bit about that to start off.
Well, my wife called me fat in 2018. I mean, she didn't say those words, but she just basically said, "Hey, you don't look like you used to," and I was working a ton. I had got this job where eating was like, they had free food all the time there as part of the
buffet.
Thing. And so I was just eating, and I just didn't realize how quickly it crept up on me. And so finally she just said, like, "You don't look like you used to." And it's funny because you don't realize it. You don't understand because it comes slowly. Right.
Yeah.
And so then I started to like really look at it. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I started looking at pictures, I had her take a picture of me kind of at a certain angle. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is not good. And so then I really started getting into it. Like I started to look into the eating, right? Because, I've heard these things like abs aren't made in the gym. They're made in the kitchen. And I'm like, how does that doesn't even make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But now it makes perfect sense, because now what I've come to find out is the eating and what you're putting into your body is like 90% plus of how you look.
Wow.
And the gym, I mean, the gym's good, but do you ever go to the gym and you see the same exact, that same person that's on the same machine for years and years, and they don't look any different.
Right. That's true.
It's because they're not eating properly. And so that's how I'm crazy. So I went all out. I said, fine, you think I'm fat? I'm going to go win a competition. So then I entered into this men's physique competition. And I ended up taking 3 first place trophies in 3 different categories. and I got my body fat down to 6%. I'll never do that again, by the way. I'm not telling you to go do that in order to get into shape. I highly recommend, or I discourage you to not. I don't want you to go and do a bodybuilding competition.
Oh, that's awesome. Let me quick
Don't
share
do it.
this. Let me share the screen real quick, because I think this is a cool picture to see. I think you can see down here in this section where he's got that two, I don't know how many, it looks like 2 or 3 medals you've got in your hand right there. And
Yeah.
that's awesome. But this is Eric Moutzos's website, Freedom Blends, where he talks about, he's got some fantastic supplements here. And I
Yeah, they
love
are.
the way you've named these supplements. We've got Conservatively Calm, Delaware Crossing. You've got Patriots pre-workout, First Amendment
Uh-huh.
Men's, Pro-Life Protein. As
Uh-huh.
this thing scroll by
Uh-huh.
here. What
Uh-huh.
prompted you or motivated you to name them those, give them those names?
Several years ago, I was like, you know, after I got out of law enforcement in a pretty dramatic way,
Mm-hmm.
it was a lot of, I don't even know if you want me to go into the story, but basically very political. It was very politically motivated, and I lost my job, my badge, and my gun.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was pretty traumatic. But I started to realize that I could do this. I could actually take charge of my life, and I could do this on my own, and I don't need to report to um, someone else in order to
Mm-hmm.
work. And so I started to, I got into sales. I got into door knocking, which was very difficult at age 35. It's hard on your ego, but I started to make pretty good money doing it. And then that led me into more confidence in myself, more confidence in God. And I just kept going. And then I had this idea, because I was doing this working out thing and I really liked it. And then I'm like, I'm tired of door knocking. Like, I want people to come to me. I want to
Mm-hmm.
create something where they can actually come to me, where I have a product. And so then I really, really love, I'm very passionate about liberty. I'm passionate about agency. I'm passionate about freedom. I'm passionate about the fundamental, what made this country the way it was supposed to be, even though we screwed it up again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I'm very passionate about working out. So then I had this idea that I want to create supplements based on the principles of liberty. And so that's where I got the idea of like doing pro-life protein, First Amendment multivitamins, Jefferson juice testosterone, Delaware Crossing immune, commie cleanse,
That's
sleep off
awesome.
socialism. And they all work. They all work really good. But my number one product is Freedom Fuel. And I don't know if you can, well, you don't need to pull it up, but if you go to freedomblends.com, and I'll get you guys a Prepper Talk code, so that people, when they purchase, they can go through Prepper Talk. But the Freedom Fuel is the bomb. Like, it makes it so you don't, the reason why our bodies crave so much throughout the day is because they're not properly nourished. So the reason why they're not balanced, the reason why they crave, sugars and carbs so much, the reason why we lack energy is because our bodies don't have real nutrients. Because most of the food that we eat all the nourishment is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get just even a little bit of nutrients, your body starts to function the way that it was designed. And so Freedom Fuel has all of your fruits and veggies organic. There's 22 organic veggies and greens. There's 23 organic fruits and berries. Probiotics for gut health. One of these has an energy that's amazing. It's like 10 hours of energy, no jitters, no crash. And so most people will get what's called the bundle pack of the Freedom Fuel, and that'll last one person 2 months. So you'll do 3 in the morning of the one with the energy, and then 3 in the afternoon sometimes, so you don't crave sugars into the night. Because if you can get rid of sugar in your diet, and you can still have the occasional, right? But most people are always craving the sugars.
Yeah, that's true.
Craving the carbs, and so then it's this battle. It's like not even worth it. But what I'm saying is that if you can get your body nourished first, you just don't have the desire nearly as much, and then you can start making better choices with your macros, like your proteins, your fats, your carbs, eating good protein, eating good fat, eating good carb, because there is a difference between like a piece of bread and jasmine rice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a difference between, you know, a casserole and a sweet potato.
Yeah, that's true.
And
And
so,
even different kinds of sweet potato. There's
right.
yams, and then there's regular sweet potatoes.
Yeah. And there's good butter, there's good fat. And so it's a science. Like if people really want to take control, which I think is very important, like we just don't do it. We think that, oh, well, I look a certain way. That's just the way my body is. It's like, no, that is not. Like you're, well, I have just bad genetics. No, like you've never seen a fat skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just saying, like, we're all now. I know that there's certain diseases and there's things that people can't control with, like diabetes. That doesn't mean that they've eaten tons of sugar. It doesn't mean like there's problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most people can take control of their life by taking control of what they put into their body.
Absolutely. It was interesting. I had somebody, I've I've competed. I actually competed in men's physique the first year that it came out.
No
And I
way.
was, yeah, I did. Yeah. The first year men's physique was offered as an option for men because I didn't really want to wear the banana hammock, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
But I wanted to compete. I loved it. I wanted to show the results. You know, you're in the gym, you're eating right, you're doing all the sacrificing to be able to have that physical look. And so I competed myself the first year. Um, I got fourth place.
Dude, where's the pictures, man?
I'm those are they're buried somewhere. Maybe I'll show
No.
them to you offline, but I don't know. They're pretty cool. I was much younger, but you know, I had somebody ask me a couple years ago in our Facebook group, back when I first started it, because I started the Facebook group that we have for preparedness. I started it about I want to say maybe 8 years ago.
Mhm.
And I just had it for my local community, my local people. And it was about helping people become prepared and being self-reliant and really understanding preparedness. And now the group is really taken off since we launched the Prepper Talk Radio again. But somebody asked me, like, Paris, because I had a whole post in there about being physically fit and fitness. And like, what does fitness have to do with preparedness? And I was
Mm.
like, just about everything. Like, how can you walk if you, let's say that an EMP hits or some kind of situation hits where your car breaks down and you're 100 miles from home? Like, do you think that you're going to be able to walk that if you're fat, overweight, and you're out of shape? You know,
Yeah. Well, what
I guess
about
round is a
strength?
shape.
Well, what about strength? It's like you got to know what you can lift and what you can't lift because you're going to have
Hmm.
all these people trying to lift stuff that don't even know how to lift something and they're going to yank their back out of place. And now what? Now you're completely useless.
Yeah, you have an earthquake or some kind of natural disaster and you're on your house and and your kid's trapped under something or your spouse is trapped under something. You got to lift something to get up. If you know how to do it because you've practiced and you've been in the gym and you have the physical strength to do it, you're going to be able to
Well,
be in a way better place.
and if you know that you can't do it,
Yeah.
right? Like that's way too heavy.
Uh-huh.
Like there's no way that you're going to be able to do that by yourself. So don't try it with one person.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to get, you know what to do to leverage and use proper leverage too,
Yeah.
which is really, in the gym, form, they always say form is paramount.
Right.
Form over weight. You see a lot of guys in the gym throwing around way more weight than they should, but they're doing it with such bad form that they're going to hurt themselves.
Well, and that's just one part of it. Like that's just one part of it. What about I go to the gym more not even for looks, but for my mind. Like
Mm-hmm.
it is we were built to work. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the problem with our society now is that we work so that we don't have to do anything. We're so lazy. It's unbelievable. I mean, instead of work, so this is my belief. Okay, I believe that God created this earth so that we could have our own land where we're producing our own food, teaching our own kids. Like we were supposed to. In other words, I don't think we're going to be surprised when God's a gardener, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when we get there and it's like, oh, here's my little, here's my garden over here, and it's like there is something to working, and I think that's a universal principle, especially as mortal beings, as human beings. We were meant to sweat, and that helps our mind. That helps not only our mind, but it helps our spirit. Is there's an accomplishment, and so in other words, get to the gym, start eating good, and if you need help, send me a message. I mean, I'm no expert, but I do know that you have to stay consistent even when you don't want to go. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's days, okay, yeah, I'm in shape. You know, I'm 40 years old and I'm probably in the best shape I've ever been. I don't look like those photos you just did, but I feel better than I did when I was in. You, by the way, when you look that way, you feel like crap because you're not supposed to operate at a 6% body fat. I don't think. It's
No,
not. It's
that's
not.
true. That's not
It's not
necessarily healthy.
super. It's not super healthy because you can become obsessed and you can. So you can definitely take it to the extreme, which I did, and I'll never do that again. But what every day I'll not every day, but most days I will literally I'll pull up to the gym and I'll sit there. Have you ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yeah.
When Cameron's like, I'll go, I'll go, I'll go, I'll go, I'll go. That's how I feel some days. Like I don't want to get out of the car. I don't want to do it. But I will. And the reason why I will is because when I get out, I feel much, much better and my day goes much, much smoother when you go to the gym. Or
Yeah.
and if you don't go to the gym, do push-ups. Like get a sweat on. Like get your body moving, get your metabolism cranking. Accomplish it. Like I mean it, especially if you're a man. Of course women too, but I'm saying as a man, you better get strong.
Right. And there's something about working out that has endorphins that kick off, and that has something, the chemicals happen in your body that help boost your immune
Yeah,
system.
dopamine.
Yeah. And it gives you that sense of accomplishment and feeling, and that mental health.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things that I was I was talking to a guy who's a therapist the other day, and he said, you know, when people are having panic attacks or mental health attacks or any kind of things like that, one of the best ways to get out of it is to go work out. And there's a reason why. It's because that state change, physical state change, allows you to come out of whatever negative you're in and have a positive feeling because you accomplished something. You feel good. The endorphins that kick off, the dopamine, like you said, it's just good to be exercising and be physically fit and ready to
That's
go.
right. And it's better to eat better. And so it's if you start eating properly and you start like just a little bit of research, right? Just look up like what are the best macronutrients? Like because you can eat a lot. Like if there's someone listening, you're like, well, I eat a lot. Yeah, you can eat a lot of food, but if it's good, you can lose weight just by eating properly. But you don't
Yeah.
have to starve yourself. People don't understand. Like I'll eat sometimes over 250, 300 carbs a day, you know, and I weigh 185. And so you can eat a lot of food. You just got to choose wisely of what you're eating, and it can be good, you know, like a sweet potato, for example, you know, that's really good carbs, and you can put a lot of butter on it and you can put cinnamon on it and it's yummy. Right. But it's not a hamburger, you know, it's
Right.
not a, and if you are going to go get a hamburger, just take that bun off. Like there's just certain carbs that are just no bueno.
Yeah. And if you've been listening to the last few podcasts, we've been talking about gardening and foraging. We've been talking about growing things. And that's one of the things that really is, if you're going to go to the grocery store and you're going to look at a box and the ingredients, or you can't even pronounce some of them, and it's a mile long, like the whole side of it's this whole list of ingredients, that's probably not going to be healthy because it's going to be synthetic. It's going to be man-made. It's by the way, not to get too far down the rabbit hole on this podcast, but there's a reality to the reasons why we're having some of the problems we're having with our physical health. I mean, 100 years ago, do we have this much diabetes? 100 years ago, do we have this much obesity? You know, I don't remember if you've seen that movie. Oh shoot, it's the robot movie where they're on the, it's like Ellie or something like that. And there's all these, they're so fat, they can't even walk anymore. They have these hovercrafts that take them around.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and it's I can't think of the name of it, but it'll come to me in just a second. But yeah, that's where we're at. It's like now get in front of the TV,
Wally, that's it.
and
Yeah.
you get in front of the TV and just move around as these blobs. It's like it's unbelievable. Like it's so sad what's happened to us. And even those that look healthy, that doesn't mean that we are healthy. Like, what are we putting into our systems? You know, and I submit it's just as important as our diet is not just what we read and not just what we eat. It's what we read. It's what we watch. It's who we talk to. You're consuming information, and it's all It needs to be all good, all of
Yeah.
it. Because if you're lacking on the spiritual side, but you're really, really healthy over here, you can fall as a soul, right?
Hmm.
You can fall fast. If you're so that's why you got to keep it all balanced, right? And not go crazy. Because a lot of people will go crazy like I did, like, going and winning a competition. Like I was getting to the point I'd wake up in the morning and I'd check my abs before I would pray to God. And so now who is the
Wow.
God? Like, who are
Right.
you? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so it's really important that you check yourself, because once you start seeing results, it's very addictive.
Oh yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh, like I'm seeing results. I'm going to keep going. And then, I'm just warning you, don't get too addicted to it to where you start to neglect the things that matter most.
Absolutely. There's a reason why we have bodies, and we're supposed to have, I mean, in the Bible, we talk about our body as a temple. And so we need to make sure that we're taking care of our temple. We need to make sure that we're taking, because it houses the spirit. It houses that spirit, and we need to have a clean connection.
Hmm.
If you want to have a connection to God and a connection to that, you got to have, I liken it to an antenna. If your antenna has a bunch of rust on it, it's not going to receive that vibration or frequency as easily. And the radio station is going to, as you're tuning the station, you're going to have a lot of static. But if you're healthy and you're physically fit and you're taking care of yourself, you're going to be able to receive that frequency and that radio wave, so to speak, from God telling you, hey, I got a message for you. And then you'll also know, and you'll see it in the people around you. You'll be able to pick up on those frequencies. And I think a couple in podcast 178 about bugging out, we talked about the ability to discern when you're bugging out, and let's say you're packing a 20, 30 pound bag. I mean, how have you practiced that? That's part of working out. There's a lot of these guys who go working out and they go on runs with these vests. So in that podcast, we talked about the ability that when you come upon a group of people, you got to be able to have that spiritual discernment to know if these are good people or not. If you're bugging out and you come upon a group of people and you feel this weird kind of off feeling, don't camp with them. You move on to the next place. But if you're bugging out and you come to a group of people and you're like, man, these people feel good, because you got that frequency with God that can talk to you. It's called the Spirit of Discernment. You can know that, and that's super helpful in survival. And that's having a good physical body that's strong and in tune is part of that. Would you agree?
It's all one eternal round. I mean, that's mind, body, spirit. You hear that over and over and over. And I submit that you cannot be in tune to the level that God wants you to be if your body is out of shape. I just I don't know how you can, to the degree. Now listen, I'm not saying that someone who's obese can't receive prompting. I'm talking about to the degree that your, like you were saying, your body is an instrument. And if you're addicted to certain foods that numb the mind, you're not going to receive that light that God wants you to have. I just I don't see how you can. That's why that's why uh, prophets at like 90 something years old, they're on the treadmill,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a reason why they also work out.
Mm-hmm. It's important. And it's imperative to have a good, healthy body so that you can carry your gear and you can use your gear. I mean, if you're not sleeping properly, if you're in a mentally unstable or unhealthy state and an emergency hits, your likelihood of survival just dropped dramatically. More often than not, it's not. And being physical strength is important, but mental strength and emotional strength in an emergency is just as important, if not more important. And if you don't feel good about yourself because you don't look good, then you're not gonna do good. The old adage: if you feel good, if you look good, you'll feel good and you'll do good. And that's true. I mean, there's some vanity issues there that you can deal with, but in the reality is that's a true principle. If you feel
Mm.
good, you're gonna look good and
You
you're
have to
gonna
have
do good.
you have to have confidence. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have confidence in God and in yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to be cocky.
Yeah.
Um, but you can have confidence. And so that's why I go to the gym. I go to the gym so that it's actually more of a mental thing for me, but the physical just automatically comes.
Yeah, I remember years ago, I had lost my career. In 2008, the economic downturn in 2008. I had a business that was thriving before that, and then it just crashed, and I lost just about everything. I actually lost my house to foreclosure, lost my car to repossessions. I remember the day when the guy came and knocked on my door and said, "Hey, I'm here to take your Lexus away." And I'm like, well, I already turned it in. And so it was just, devastating. And it's those times when you're like in probably the most, worst times of your life. And I said, what can I do? Where can I go to have some foundational stability? Like, I always know that I can count on it. And I realized that my escape, so to speak, was the gym. My escape was the iron. 25 pounds is always 25 pounds. It doesn't change its mind halfway through this rep. It doesn't change its mind the next rep, between reps. It's always 25 pounds. And that's the kind of foundation that I really needed and wanted in my life. And so I really started to fall in love with working out and being physically fit. And that's where I kind of got my passion for being in the gym. Yep. Was that wanting that stability, and that mental stability helped me. Then I transferred that to my physical, and like you said, mind, body, spirit, it's all connected.
Yep. And so where do you start? Start with one push-up. Like,
right?
Start with, it's like, then the next day do 2. And then the next day do 3. I mean, if you're that, or if you can do 2 or 3, start there. Do 2 or 3 sit-ups. Walk. People think that you have to run in order to lose weight. That's actually not true. If you get your heart rate too high, you're not in a fat burning mode. Mm-hmm. So go to the gym and do, go put the treadmill on, like a 15 incline at like 3 miles an hour, and do that for 30 minutes. That's doable every single day. And what that does is it'll get your heart rate right into that, right above 120. Try to get your heart rate between like 120, 135. Don't go higher than like 135. And you go into a fat burn zone. Because if you get your heart rate too high, then I don't know the scientific term, but it just doesn't, your body doesn't go into a fat burn mode. So it's a lot easier than people think. There's just a science to it. And if you want those results, then you figure out the exact recipe to do it.
And then it's important to make sure that as you're learning these things, and you're learning what foods are good and what foods aren't good, you start to store those in your 90-day supply and your year supply. Because you get too many processed foods, and and the grid goes down, and we're all stuck for 6 months because the reset happened, and you don't feel good because you're not eating good. You're going to be easily, I mean, how easy is it to conquer people that aren't physically fit? Right?
Well, you're going to conquer yourself. Like that's, I mean, if you're not, you gotta be in shape. Oh, I was going to tell you too, that the Freedom Fuel, that's dehydrated. So that will last many years on the shelf. Cause it's fruits and veggies capsules. So just FYI.
That's awesome. So you can have a storage of that. I mean, I remember the old, the movie several years ago that, it was Spartan, the 300, where the men of Sparta came out, and they knew they were extreme. They went to some extremes to be able to have that physicality, but 300 guys, and a few, they had a few others from different city states that were in the area. But the reality is 300 men stood and defeated Xerxes in that thing. They had a traitor that came in, and it's always an inside guy that it's a traitor that destroys you. But they were so physically fit that they had the ability to do that and defend their country and defend their people. I personally, in my, many of you already know this, I've shared this in other podcasts, that I have a goal to read the Old Testament cover to cover this year. And I'm just reading right now in Joshua, or maybe it's Judges, sorry. And I'm reading about Gideon, and God, he had an army of about 35,000 people. And God said, we need to narrow it down, because I don't want you to go into this next battle thinking that you did it on your own strength. I want you to know that you did it based on my strength. So he said, go ask all your warriors who's scared to go into the next battle. And so he walked in, and 22,000 of his warriors were scared, and they were fearful. And so they went home. So he sent them all home. If you're fearful, go home. 22,000 of the 32 or 33,000 that he had. The next 10,000, he had that test where he said, go down to the river and the men that kneel down with both knees, don't pick those. And the men that kneel down with and lick the water like a dog, don't pick those. But the men who look and are aware and put their hand in the water and bring their hand up slowly to their mouth, those are the men who are aware, because they're prepared. They're situationally aware. They're looking around. They're aware of what's going on. They're prepared to be in a position of discipline and be disciplined. And that was 300 men too, by the way. I thought it was really cool that Gideon took 300. God told him to take 300 men and be able to go conquer that next set of people that they were able to take and conquer. So being physically fit gives you that confidence that then gives you the mental acuity to stay aware, to stay alert, to be ready, and to have a consistent ready-minded attitude and personality.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a cool story.
Yeah. And then to put it all on the line and know who you are. That's why I think it's so important that we get straight with God. So that we know. It's like, okay, well, if we die tomorrow, we die tomorrow, but you're straight. It's like, it's almost like we've already put in our mind that we've already died. But now it's like, well, how's that going to happen? Like, really, I mean, we got to get ourselves to that point, I think. And I was going to bring this up when you're talking about 300. So my last name is Moutsos, which is Greek.
Mm-hmm.
And the Greeks, what they used to do when they would like take over an island. Have you heard this before? Like what they would do? So when they would sail and they would go to take an island, they would land and then they would burn their boat. Wow. And they did that for a couple reasons. First was to let them know we're here. And the second is we're not leaving.
Wow.
Like we're either going to conquer this or we're going to die here. And so they would literally set fire to their own boat. And I love that because that's called commitment. They were committed.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of eating and commitment, a chicken is not committed, but a pig is committed. When you eat ham, when you eat an egg, a chicken isn't committed. They're just part of the deal. But when a ham, if you're eating ham or bacon, that pig was committed, right? And that's the difference. Are we given eggs and we're kind of in the deal, or are we given are all committed to the process?
So it's good. So yeah, if I guess I could give. Do you mind if I give out my my text message link to your listeners?
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they text the word liberty to 888-210-6260. So I'll say it one more time. Text the word liberty to 888-210-6260. And what that'll give them is it'll give them a link and it'll have all my platforms on there. So it'll have like the documentary we did in Utah called Non-Essential. It'll have my book called Dispatch for free on my website, which is ericmoutsos.com. And then it'll have all my social media channels because I have to switch them up a lot because I'll get censored. So for example, I've had to start up, 4 different Instagram accounts.
Wow.
Because, we're all in this together and they care about everybody's views.
That's
so
crazy.
That's why they love to censor people.
That's legit.
Isn't it amazing that where we've gotten so fast? And one thing I wanted to say is that it is very, very good to prepare physically because that is, it has to be at the same time, but we've got to prepare spiritually for what's about to take place. And do you want to talk about that for a second, or do you want to move on to a different topic?
Well, I think our physical body is just as important as our physical body. And so it is very important to do that and to be physically and spiritually prepared.
Yeah. And so I just think it's very, very important that we're seeing if we're receiving revelation, and if we're not feeling that spirit, then we've got to make some adjustments. And a lot of times it's with our bodies. A lot of times it's with what we're consuming, not only with our food, but also with our phones. Most of us, myself for sure, we have addictions to these things. You have an addiction to the social media, the what we're consuming. And so if we can get ourselves straight with God and that we start to connect with him instead of what we're going to post next, I'm saying this because these are some of my weaknesses.
Mhm.
What we're going to post next, that's when we can, that's what he wants us to connect to him.
That's true. I mean, even the ancient Israel, we know they had diet. They had, God gave them things to eat and not eat. You know, we know that the Jews had the whole kosher and non-kosher. They had a whole eat the unclean versus the clean to eat. And even in the New Testament, we talk about how Paul and they had it was Peter actually that had that vision, that he was like, I want you to go. He had the vision where he was told to eat. He can now eat some of the unclean animals. And he was concerned about it. And what that was, it was obviously symbolic of them being able to go to the Gentiles and be able to preach the gospel to the Gentiles. But the reality is that God's people all throughout time, if you read the scriptures and the Holy Word, you'll see that they had God gave them words of wisdom, what we call today in the modern vernacular, a word of wisdom to eat properly. And it wasn't just about what you shouldn't do. It was also what you are supposed to do to eat properly, to eat good things, to eat stuff that you can grow and grains. And when you follow commandments, every commandment, everything that God gives us to do, there's a blessing in that. And that blessing will come as we follow those things. And the blessing of having strength in our bodies and the ability to move and be active and to perform is critical to being a prepper and being prepared. Any last minute thoughts on physical fitness and preparedness, Eric, to share before
just
we
do
go?
it. Just do it. Like you're 1% of people, are in pretty good shape. 1% of people can do like 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, 10 pull-ups. And if you can do that, if you can get to that point where you can do literally 10 pull-ups, like you're in the 1%. And so God is going to need, in order to get like the 300 you were saying, you're going to need to do these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Eric, thanks a ton for being on the show again and for talking about physical fitness and the importance of being physically fit in preparation for what's coming. We both know that there's going to be some hard times that are going to hit the people, and physical fitness is going to be a foundational part of being able to survive both mentally and spiritually. We need to have our physical fitness. If we want to get a hold of you, Eric, we can go to freedomblends.com. Is that right? And then also text. I'm going to have this in the description below as well. I'll put that number and then texting the word liberty to 888-210-6260. And then
6260.
Got it. And so we'll have a link in the description below for you if you want to get involved with Eric supplements. Whether you buy the supplements that we talked about today from Eric, or you buy them from some other place, the point is get something in your body that's going to give you the strength and the nutrition that you need so that you're not craving sugars and the wrong things, because that's right now our whole food system is designed to get us to crave things we shouldn't, so that we can become the Wallies where we're sitting on our couch with our exercising our thumbs and we're fat slobs and we don't know what, we can't do anything. And when they come knock on our door to corral us into the slaughterhouse, we're all plumped up and ready to be slaughtered. So if you're a prepper out there and you really want to be prepared and you're feeling like you need to get physically fit, do it. This was your wake-up call. This was your call to repentance, so to speak, to get yourself in physical shape. And so one more time, go to our website, preppertalkradio.com, join our email list there, go to our Facebook group, click like, click subscribe, click download, whatever you do, follow us, stay with us, become a part of our community, help us. We're going to do everything that we can to provide you good quality content. However, we also recognize that you have skills. You listener, you have something that you can do to provide a value and edify us. And we want to know you. We want to be a part of, if you're feeling that's true, join our Facebook group, join our email list, get connected to us, because we're not going to be able to do this alone. We're going to, in the real world of God and his community, it's unifying good people together to do good things. And that's what we're looking forward to. So Eric Moutsos, thank you once again for coming on the show. And until the next time, be prepared, stay prepared, and be ready-minded. Thank you.